Hello, True Health Seeker, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Learn True Health podcast. Today we have entrepreneur, coach, and homeschooling mom, Jenny Fenig. What I love about her message is she is a very successful, busy entrepreneur and busy mom, busy homeschooling mom, and also a fantastic coach. And she figured out how to be able to pack in all these activities while working from home, while taking care of her kids and homeschooling. She figured out how to do it. And she loves teaching others how to make this transition. So I thought it'd be great to get some wonderful guidance from her. As you're listening to Jenny, if you think to yourself, I would love to be a coach, I would love to help others mentally, emotionally, and physically become healthier, become more fulfilled in their lives, and be able to gain more joy. I'd love to work with clients to help them achieve their life and health goals. Then I highly recommend checking out IIN, the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. I took IIN's program. It's a year-long health coach training program. It's 100% done online. They also have an accelerated 6-month program for those that want to be full-time students. The year-long program is designed for busy people, and you can fit it in about 20 minutes a day. I like to do it in the evenings, or sometimes I'd listen and do the coursework while I was driving or exercising or folding laundry or cooking dinner, but I was able to get it in with my busy schedule, and it's absolutely fantastic. IAN's program is life-changing. About half the students that do it for the personal growth, which is pretty phenomenal. So you could do it for your own personal growth, but of course I did it because I also wanted to help my clients. I wanted to gain new tools to help them as a health coach. And they even train you how to start your own business and become a successful health coach, which is really exciting. So not only do they teach you how to help your clients with mental, emotional, physical health, and gaining life goals and increasing joy and fulfillment in every aspect of their lives, you're also taught how to find clients that would resonate with your coaching style and that clients you would just feel incredibly fulfilled and happy to work with. And so it's a wonderful program. Now, I partnered up with IIN, and they give a huge discount to the listeners of the Learn Your Health podcast. So you can just Google IIN, the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, and when you give them a call, most of their staff have actually gone through the program and become health coaches, integrative health coaches. So what you can do is you can talk to them. They'll help you work out your goals in terms of becoming a health coach and joining their program. And then when you mention my name, Ashley James, with the Learn True Health podcast, you will be given a huge discount. And a few times a year, they do have some great specials as well. So always be on the lookout for that. And if you'd like to try their program for free, there's a module that they give you for free. Go to learntruehealth.com/coach. That's learntruehealth.com/coach. And sign up, put your name and email, and then you'll be given a module for free. So you can just put your toe in the water, try it out, and see if it's something that resonates with you. See if it's something that's right for you. It was absolutely incredible when I did it. I highly recommend it. And there's been over 100 of the listeners that I know of that have reached out to me, that have told me that they've been through the program, and a lot of them because they heard about it through me, through the podcast. So I've had a lot of people reach out to me and share that they've absolutely loved their experience with IIN. And it's a wonderful stepping stone because you can go and then you can go specialize in other things. You can specialize in gut health or mental health, or there's just so many ways so that you can specialize as a health coach, which is really exciting. So you become a health coach, but there's so many tools that they teach you around life coaching because health encompasses every aspect of our life. So IIN is not about counting calories or teaching you how many grams of protein is in something. That's not what IIN's about. It's about giving you the real tools to help make huge differences in people's lives, in working with clients to help them become more fulfilled in every aspect of their life. So check it out. Go to learntruehealth.com/coach. get your free module. And when you call IIN, make sure you mention my name, Ashley James, and Learn to Health podcast, so you can get access to the great special that they give all the listeners. Thank you so much for being a listener of Learn to Health podcast. Please come join our Facebook group. It's a wonderfully supportive community for holistic minded people. Just search Learn True Health on Facebook. Thank you for sharing these episodes with those you care about so we can help everyone to learn true health. Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 444. I'm so excited for today's guest. We have Jenny Fenig. Her website is jennyfenig.com, and all the links that Jenny has are going to be in the show notes of today's podcast at learntruehealth.com. Jenny's going to teach us today how to co-create with the cosmos and align ourselves with the energy of nature to help us achieve what we want to achieve in life. And also, there's a bit of, from what I understand, also kind of tapping into your human potential, tapping into your life purpose. So it's going to be a really fun and lighthearted episode. I'm looking forward to it. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much. I'm excited to be here, Ashley.
Yeah, absolutely. So what happened in your life that had you want to then, what led you down the path to becoming an expert at co-creating with the cosmos?
Well, that's a good question. I think the larger conversation is looking at how I've experienced so much loss in my life and so much death. We're just going to go there. I mean, life is death, is life, is death, is life. We go through so many deaths in a lifetime. Death of an identity or a particular career path or a place that you used to live that isn't working for you anymore, what have you. And for me, when I was 16 years old, I experienced a death of a significant person in my life. And that person was my sister, Julie. Still is my sister, Julie. Energy is energy. And so I absolutely have a strong connection with her. Still to this day, it's been over 25 years since she died. But that experience of, wow, life is so mysterious and it's not, quote, fair. It's not what you thought it was going to be, yet it all is lining up for your biggest opportunities to grow and to learn and to be who you came here to be and do what you came here to do. And so with that death of my sister when she was 12 and I was 16, she died of cancer. I was just kind of skyrocketed into this experience of grief and loss and what just happened. Like, this isn't supposed to happen. This goes against the natural order. Right. And then 6 months later, my best friend's brother died. And that was just another example of what? These things aren't supposed to be happening. At that point, we were seniors in high school. And, you've been looking forward to this moment your whole life. I grew up in the South, in Georgia and Florida. At that point, I was living in Florida. And this friend and I had just, gotten onto homecoming court, which is this dream that we had. It felt like such a big deal. And my sister had died earlier that year, and then her brother dies that fall. And it was just this bizarre experience of this feeling that I hadn't ever felt before, ever. And no one can prepare you for it. And it allowed me to go really deep into my own process, my own faith, my own questioning of all of it, really all of it. My sister was quite connected to God, and that was not anything that I really knew much about, to be honest with you. That was her thing. It was my dad's thing, but it just was something I kind of witnessed from afar. Like, what's that all about? I don't really understand what you all are talking about. And then once, my sister died and I had this huge pain, and then my best friend's brother died, you're kind of you go deeper into this hole. That's what it felt like, of just sitting with this and trying to understand something that can't really be understood in a logical, rational way. And as I journeyed forward, going on to college and just doing my best to keep showing up, right? Keep showing up for the work, keep showing up for my talent, keep showing up for my ambition. I kept being led to the places I was supposed to be, the people I was supposed to meet, the experiences I was supposed to have, so that I could do what I'm here to do. And what was fascinating was early on in my sophomore year, that best friend whose brother had died our senior year of high school, that best friend died. So I basically had three deaths in 3 years from the time I was 16 to 19. And I wouldn't wish that on people. It's very, very challenging, as you can imagine. But it cracked me wide open, and it allowed me to really come to this place of I am still here because my work is not done. And I am going to really feel the energy of these people who meant so much to me. And I know that they're guiding me on, because this work that I'm here to do, you're here to do, we're all here to do, it requires all of us. It requires all of us to be awake. It requires all of us to be courageous. It requires all of us to, know, approach each day like it is a gift, because it is, and to go after the things that you're most meant to do. Once I moved on into my career, I moved to New York City after I graduated from the University of Florida, and I found my way into the career of public relations. And I thought I had kind of struck gold. This was the thing I was here to do. I'm working at this major agency on these big clients, and eventually traveling globally on these big projects. And although it was exciting and I felt like I was at a good place and working on interesting, projects and with interesting people, I had this feeling inside, which was really me connecting with that small, still voice within, to come face to face with the truth. And the truth was, this isn't what I was supposed to be doing. And it was such a tough pill to swallow, because, it looked good on paper. It looked really good on paper. And you try to ignore it. You try to just push it away, push it down, question yourself. I thought there was something wrong with me. I wondered why I couldn't be satisfied, or I couldn't be happy when other people might think this was fine, or awesome. But that small, still voice within just kept nudging me along to say, Jenny, this isn't it. You got to keep going. You got to keep looking. And most importantly, you've got to take care of yourself. That environment that I was in, which was, back I graduated college in 1999. So you can kind of go back to that point in time. The internet was very new, so there was no social media, like that wasn't taking our time. But when you worked on these big projects, like I had to be at work a lot, and I worked a lot, and I was under a tremendous amount of pressure and stress. And it's not something that I found to be healthy or sustainable or desirable. And so a big, a breakthrough for me was that I realized I had to start taking better care of myself. And I really needed to learn how to mother myself and nurture myself, and take a pause and take time and not feel like I was racing all the time. And so that, you asked the question of how did I really find this work? I found the work by, diving headfirst into the work that I felt I was here for and was talented at, but then realizing that it didn't quite hit the mark. And the way that I had to deconstruct it and figure out what was a better path for me was to choose health, and to choose vitality, and to choose trusting that small, still voice within, which has continuously guided me on. It guided me to eventually quit that job, move into a different job, which was a thing I didn't even know was a thing until I found it. I moved out of public relations and into conference producing, which again, it just kind of fell in my lap when I was in sheer desperation of get me out of here. I can't do this anymore. And that opened me up to interesting thinkers, thinking like an entrepreneur, acting like an entrepreneur, putting on these big events and solving problems in the market. And just understanding that I really can do anything that I want to do. I just have to decide what that is. And I believe that's true for your listeners as well. We are in choice. We can come into this place of, I have these distinct skills, I have these gifts, I have these talents. And when we can really blend everything up and understand what problems we solve in the market, and then communicating with an audience that is excited for us to help them solve that problem, then amazing things happen. Uh, a big pathway for me, I know your show is, really a lot about health and vitality and all the different ways that looks, was I dove headfirst into yoga. Those first few years in New York, once I could afford to belong to a gym, I started taking yoga classes. I took my first one in college and I thought it was the weirdest thing ever. And I so wasn't ready for it. But then once I was ready for it in those New York City days, I realized it was a source of comfort and a source of peace. And it made my body feel so good. And I allowed myself to just feel that and to come to this place of, oh my goodness, when you're in a yoga class, you're not competing at all. And I felt so much of my life I had been competing. Like that was the game. You competed. And when you're in yoga, it's not about competition. It's really about being present with yourself and what's going on that particular day and honoring that. So by me following that path to yoga, eventually I got this download to train to become a yoga teacher. I didn't know where that was going to take me, but I trusted it. Again, that small, still voice within, I trusted it. I said, okay, let's see. Let's see what happens when I commit myself to 200 hours of training on anatomy, on yoga philosophy, on, the different asanas, on meditation, on just that whole realm. And once I did that, the next level of my career opened up and I discovered the field of coaching. And that has just taken me on this incredible path, this incredible journey. I realized that serving women was my passion. And as I got deeper into my study and work with women, I remembered how connected we are to the moon and the way our bodies are designed. They're so intelligently designed, the way the lunar cycle is designed, the way nature is designed. There's such intelligence and such wisdom in that. And when we can tap into that wisdom, we come into that place of alignment. And that is something I practice, that is something I teach, and that is something I want to remind everyone of. Uh, it's very much been taken away. We live in such a society with technology and go, 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 and you're falling behind and all of it. And nature's never behind. You know what I'm saying? It's not behind. When I look outside, my trees aren't like, oh my gosh, I don't have enough leaves yet. Or this tree's bigger than me and I must be less than. The nature is just so sure of who it is. And it's always right on time. And I find there's such wisdom in that. And it's something I love talking about.
What can you take us back to the moment when you realized that there was an energy of the moon to tap into
Hmm.
and explain how you figured it out and how it helped you?
Well, it's interesting because my mom growing up would often say to me, look up at the moon. Because since the time I was, in college, I lived away from where she was living and then beyond. So she often would plant that seed with me. And sometimes I thought she was a little wacky, for like, all right. But that has stuck with me. And what's so fascinating? No matter where you are located on this planet, every single one of us is looking at the same moon. It's not different in the Philippines, in the United States, in Canada, in Spain, in Antarctica. It's the same moon. It's the exact same moon. I just think that's so cool. We live on such a giant planet and we're all looking up at that same ball of light. And when it really became clear for me was when I just started reading, various books about women and history and energy. and our creative process. Women are natural creators or creatrixes. A creatrix is the female term of creator. And we just naturally do it. We naturally create. Some of us are called for motherhood, where we create a child inside, or we adopt a child, however that comes to be, or somehow a child comes into our life. And I just find that whole process, I think I got deeper into it when I became a mother. My oldest child is 11 years old now, and my youngest is 6. I also have a 9-year-old. And, when I became pregnant for that first time, which was so interesting because for a lot of years I didn't want to become pregnant. Like, that wasn't something I was ready for. And then once I became ready for that, and wanting that, I saw my body in a whole new way. And as women cycle, a lot of us have had a menstrual cycle. We know what that is. Menstrual cycles are the same about as the lunar cycle. It's around 29 and a half days. I mean, think about that. Those are the things I wish I would have been taught in school.
Mm.
All right. Okay. So when I was growing up, it was very much like, when you're on your period, that's dirty. That's dirty. It's something you want to hide. Maybe you were made fun of, especially if the boys knew you're on your period somehow in school because you took your purse to the bathroom. It was something that almost felt shameful. There wasn't a real big rite of passage around it when I was growing up. I will tell you, when my daughter moves into that phase of her life, I will do it differently with her. I will give her something that I didn't have, that I've had to learn for myself. And, when you really tune into that fact that we cycle, our body cycles the same as the moon, that's something to take note of. So, with the moon, what I've come to learn through practice and study, and just applying this in my own personal life and in my business and helping my clients do this, is that, if you really want to understand how to work with the energy of the moon, when you are menstruating, there is an energy. You might have read the book The Red Tent. I read that many, many years ago. It's a fantastic book. It's really that energy of being still, resting, renewing, not go, go, go. Like, you're just receiving. Your body is doing the work, your body's cleansing, and that's the energy of the new moon. That's the energy of that new moon. And so if you were to start tracking the lunar cycle, and most calendars have this represented on the calendar. If you have a wall calendar, if you have a printed calendar, I still use those. I mean, I have a business, we have a lot of digital things going on, but I have a printed calendar that I keep on my desk and often in my purse. I'm not going as many places these days as I once did pre-COVID, but I've got my printed calendar, and I've got my calendar in my kitchen that I keep up on the wall, and the moon phases are represented in there. Take note of those. Some people have no idea where the moon is right now in terms of the phase of the cycle. And I suggest that you start paying attention, if you haven't already, and just tracking your own energy around what's going on in the moon. Sometimes as women, our bodies might be on that same um, phase, right? Like, you might, if you're still in your bleeding years, you might bleed at the same time as the new moon. If so, like, the energy is really synced up. If not, there's still a lot that you can glean from the moon. And you really want to understand what's happening out there so you can better take care of yourself. That's the whole thing. I mean, isn't that what true health is all about? Is, how to take care of yourself, and how to have others help take care of you. If you have other people in your life, right, really helping to nourish you and support you. So that new moon is all about rest, renewal, and ultravision. And then about a week later, we move into the first quarter moon. And that's when you look up in the sky, and, just last night, it was the first quarter moon. I looked up, and it was just like magic. And it was so captivating, and it looks like a half moon, okay, where that right side is glowing, and you don't see the light on the left side. It's just that right side of the moon. And that is the energy of growth, action, and commitment. So what you can do at new moon, as well as resting and renewing, is that you get the vision for what you want to focus on in this upcoming cycle. Okay. With moons, there are 13 moons in a year. There are 12 months in a year, but there are 13 moons in a year. So you have an opportunity 13 times in a year to really set your intention. And it doesn't always happen at the first of the month. That's not how it works. It happens when it happens based on that lunar cycle. And the lunar cycle is set. You could go look ahead a few years and you'll go see the lunar cycle, like when the new moon of 2025 will be, you know? Scientists have this down. I mean, it's really extraordinary what can be tracked and looked at as you move forward. So what I like to do at each new moon is set my intention. What is my intention? What do I want my energy and my focus to go to for this lunar cycle, so that as I take my steps forward and as I put my energy out there and my actions out there and my words out there, I can see the seeds that I'm planting blossom, right? So I'm setting my intention. I'm establishing some goals to support that intention at the new moon. So when I get to that first quarter moon, I'm really quickening my steps. I'm like, okay, let's go. Have I sent out that email? Have I talked to that person? Have I gone to get that thing? Have I planted my seeds? And if not, what seeds do I really want to be planting now or in the next few days? Because then about a week later, we're going to get to that full moon. And that's when you look up in the sky and everybody knows what a full moon looks like. And there tends to be a pretty powerful energy at full moon. There's just such powerful sensations that are happening right there. And we're all feeling it. We're all feeling it. There's a lot of data to support that hospitals and emergency rooms in particular have a lot more action around full moon. Okay, there's just this heightened intensity that's going on. And when we can understand that, we don't have to be blindsided by it and going like, why do I feel all this? You understand it intuitively, and you can really make space for it. So what I know at full moon is that's when I'm in my fullest power. That's when I'm going for it. And that is when, as women, that's when we would be ovulating. Okay, so that's when we could conceive a child. Okay, and so you think about that, and there's only a few days in a woman's cycle that could happen. Okay. And so when you then understand your own energy at that point, the energy of the full moon at that point, you can harness some things. I'll often, like in my business, I might have some big activity going on at the full moon where I am, putting something out there. I have hosted lots of retreats all around the world and tie that into full moon, where I will look ahead and go, all right, I'm going to have this event in November. I'd like to bring the women together around the full moon. When's that full moon going to be? Okay, it's this point. Let me check with my retreat center and see if they have space available at that time. You see, that's how you can really line it up. Some people might decide that they're going to have some special thing there. They're going to put this thing out there. They're going to whatever. Like you just know when that is. Maybe you want to go camping. Like there's just something that you want to do around full moon. And I do a lot of this with my kids, especially my daughter. She's super into it. We really talk about the moon together. And if I take my dog for a walk around the property at night, I'm always looking for the moon. What's interesting is you don't know where she's going to be. The moon is a feminine energy, PS. And so you don't know where the moon's going to be. I can't always look up, over this particular tree and see her. It's not how she works. She's very mysterious. And I love that. I just love that energy. I love that idea of that she's always there. I just don't know where she is all the time. I know what's up. I know if she's at, this phase or that phase, but I can't always find her in the sky. Okay. It's just an interesting thing to play with. And it also helps you deepen into your faith. Just because you can't see it doesn't mean it's not there. Get it?
Mm-hmm.
And that we have to trust. We have to trust. And you have to trust planting these seeds. I'll give you an example, and then I'll tell you about the last phase of the moon. A few months back, as we were, really in the throes of COVID here in Massachusetts, and I know that you have listeners all over, and it's being, everyone is being impacted different places, and it's just horrible. It's this horrible thing. Well, a few months back, we really weren't leaving our house, and except I was able to go to the garden store and be outside, and I eventually got these seeds, these sunflower seeds. Now, I have never planted seeds. I just recently have gotten into gardening. A few years back, I kind of just, all right, let me try this, let me try that. But I'd always buy plants that were already formed. They were in the pots, and then I could transfer them into my land, into the earth. Well, I decided to just see what happens when I would plant seeds, and sunflower seeds in particular, which is really interesting because that was my favorite flower in high school. I campaigned for it to become our senior class flower. And it did, which is very exciting because we had the rose for like 20 years straight. And my whole thing was, okay, rose is a great flower, but can we just have a different flower? Like, let's be creative. And so we got the sunflower, and I decided to get these seeds and I put them in the earth. And I remember thinking to myself, is this going to work? I mean, these things are really small. Is this really going to work? I'm going to follow the directions. I'm going to space them the amount of inches they're supposed to be spaced apart. I'll water them. Okay. But I had that doubt in my head. Like, really, could something as big as sunflowers grow out of these little things? Oh my gosh, Ashley, if you could look outside my window right now, these things are so huge. These stalks are taller than me. And I've been checking on them. And there's one in particular that I can see the yellow starting to peek through. I'm like, oh my goodness, I think this week, like the flower's going to come out, because at this point, it's been the giant stalks. And then I still know within the stalks, like the flower's in there. It's just not ready. It's not ripe yet. It's not time yet. But can I still believe? Can I still believe? And so for everyone, can you still believe even if you can't see it? You have to believe it to see it. Some people have it backwards, like I'll see it when I believe it, or I'll believe it when I see it. Okay, I'll believe it when I see it. It's like, no, you will see it when you believe it. So that's really, I feel, what the moon allows us to do. She's so consistent. And as I've used her energy and really worked with her energy and co created with it, I've been able to come into a deeper communion with my own body and with my own wellness and with my own groundedness and connection to the earth and to my place on this earth. And then I've helped my people really tap into this wisdom as well. So the last phase of the cycle is called the last quarter moon. And that is when you look up and you see the light on the left side. So you don't see the light on the right side. And that's how you can always know. When you look up, if it's on the right side, the moon is waxing, it's getting bigger in the sky. And if the light is on the left side, it's called waning. The energy is waning and it's getting smaller, eventually going back to that new moon and then starting the cycle again. So with last quarter moon, that is the energy of letting go to rise higher. And so that is when you have seen what has started growing, what has become real. You've put in effort, you've put in actions, you set that intention back at new moon, you set those goals and you work towards them. And some of them were meant to happen the way that you hoped they would, or the way that you semi envisioned that they would. And others, you realize, you know what, that wasn't aligned, or maybe not yet, or maybe I need to simply be more patient, or maybe I need to let that go because this other thing is freaking growing and it looks really exciting. And I want to align my energy to that. And I know that I can't do all the things all the time. So I'm going to double down on that. And I'm going to let go of these other things that can't come with me into the next cycle. You see? So that is the lunar cycle in a nutshell. I'm actually looking up at this gorgeous lunar calendar, in addition to the ones that I mentioned that come printed in a lot of these calendars you might buy. I had my designer on my team. We collaborated on this really cool, like, one sheet, and it just says Lunar Calendar 2020. And what was so interesting is that we had I had her put all the names of the months at the top of the paper, so going across horizontally, and then the numbers go down vertically. All right, so every, January there's like 1 to 31, February 1 to 29, and they're just this long, rows of numbers going down the page. And then she would go in and plot out each phase of the cycle, and go across the page, like what is full moon in January, February, December, and it looks like, if you ever had or ever saw those really cool beads that you could hang in a doorway, they're kind of like circa 1970s, but they're cool. You could hang these beads in a doorway and then kind of like open the beads and move into another room. They kind of look like those beads. They're so pretty when you look at it. It's just, to me, it's just exquisite art, the way that nature was designed. And the more that we understand that, the more that we understand ourselves.
Beautiful. It's amazing how there's so much in nature that really affects us, and we often just don't think about it. What other, I
Yep.
mean, the moon being powerful, if you think about, the moon is strong enough to change the tides and pull the water, the ocean, in
Mm.
one direction
Yep.
and then in another, and create the tide. And we're made of water, so why wouldn't the moon have some kind of pull? If it can pull the water in the ocean, why wouldn't it have some kind of effect on us? I mean, it's not a huge effect, but it can be felt, and we can see it. We can
Yes.
see it when we go to the ocean and we see the tide come in and out. What other um, instances in nature do you keep your awareness of and tap into?
Well, I look at where I am each season, really honoring seasonal shifts and planning around that. Yeah. I didn't realize how important, honestly, nature was to me until I did. I grew up in the South, as I mentioned, and when I lived in Florida, I lived near the beach, and that was really nice having that ocean near me. Speaking of tides and oceans, and then once I lived in New York, you're in a concrete jungle. We had Central Park, we had some trees there, but typically you had a tree kind of carved out in a little plot on the sidewalk in cement. I did have the Hudson River, thank goodness. I lived on West End Avenue, which was overlooking the Hudson River, and that just, oh, that brought me such a sense of calm. But once I moved to the country 10 years ago, I left New York City. I now live in the country, Western Massachusetts. I felt like I could exhale. It was it was something I really needed but didn't know that I needed it. New York was so wonderful for my career, and I met my husband there. I had my first child there. I got pregnant with my second child when we lived there, but it didn't provide me enough nature. And now I have it. I look around these windows in the office that I'm speaking to you from, and all I see are trees. Like, that's it. I see trees. I live in a forest. I consider the trees my friends, which may sound funny, but it's true. And I take such cues from these trees. We have nature here, and we have four seasons here. I know not every place has four seasons, but we have that here. And so I've learned to really be seasonal in my approach. And so my energy in the summer is different than my energy in the fall, is different than my energy in winter, is different than my energy in spring. All right. And I encourage you all to really tap into that for yourselves as well. Like, how are you in summer versus winter? And what changes do you need to make or modifications do you need to make so that your body stays in a natural state? You know, I enjoy being warm. Cold is hard for me. So winter here is hard. It's really, really challenging. And I learned to layer. I learned that clothing really matters. Wool matters. I wear lots of layers of wool pretty much since it gets cold until it's not cold anymore. I have like a layer of wool on my skin, and that makes a massive, massive difference. And what I'm eating during winter time in particular are like warm foods, because my body is cold, and my body, it gets anxious when I'm cold. There's something that I studied, which is a pretty cool, it's an ancient science and an ancient practice, really. I went to India a few years ago, and I went through my yoga teacher training back in 2007. When I did that, and I was reading all of these books around yoga philosophy and really understanding the mind. And the purpose of yoga is to achieve mastery over the mind. It's not to contort yourself into these shapes, although the shapes help you achieve the mastery over the mind. So when I went through all that, I just had this pact I made with myself that I would go to India. I didn't know when I would go to India or how that trip would come into being, but I simply, it was like the seed, I planted the seed. And about 10 years later, the wish came true. The opportunity presented itself. And I walked through the door and I said, I'm going to go on that trip. And I had the opportunity to study something called Ayurveda. And there are Ayurvedic doctors. This is a form of medicine, and it's a very natural form of medicine with the usage of herbs and being intelligent about what you eat and understanding your body constitution. In Ayurveda, there's 3 body types: Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And when you can just dig into this if anyone's interested and kind of look around and see what you find here. There's these assessments you can take. You can answer questions and get a better read on like what your constitution is. We all are a mix of all 3, but you'll have one that's that's dominant and one that's like a clear secondary. For me, I'm Vata Pitta. And so Vata is very airy. Like we're predisposed to being cold. My husband's Pitta, so he's predisposed to being hot. So you can imagine that we battle over the thermostat. He wants it to be, on the colder side, and I'm like making it warmer. So if you know that your body's predisposed to certain things, then you need to be prepared. So if my body gets too cold and I'm not prepared through the foods that I'm eating, through being mindful of, me waking up first thing, I shouldn't drink an ice cold glass of water ever. First thing, it's going to throw me out of alignment. I'm going to just head into a place I don't need to be, which is anxiety, which is just too much cold. Like I start just getting too amped up and I'm not grounded. I'm kind of floating and not in a way that's like super peaceful, blissful. It's like I'm too out there. And I need to come back to this place of groundedness. So for me, understanding this and me going to India and studying with an Ayurvedic teacher and working with Ayurvedic doctors there and staying at this really amazing Ayurveda retreat center in a town called Gokarna, which is just out of this world. I'll never forget it. It was one of those incredible experiences. I understand now what I need to do. And so when I wake up, my go-to ritual is I fill my kettle with water, put it on, turn on the stove, and then I pour myself 2 cups. 1 warm water, like it's hot water when it goes into the cup. I wait till it cools off a little bit, and I put lemon in there. And then I have my second cup and I fill that with my favorite jasmine green tea. And then of course with my lemon. And one of my clients makes this really cool like chai concoction. She's just this like herbalist and she gives me these batches of what she makes. And so I stir a little bit of that in there and it just is this magical blend. And it gets me going on the right foot. Like my body starts really waking up. I'm moving, things are really good. And I feel connected. I feel grounded because I haven't gone to that like ice cold thing. Okay. And so you all can study that. You can really look at how is your body designed? Like our body wants to feel good. We want to feel healthy, but things are set up right now that you forget all that. And if you're on your computer all day, your cortisol levels get jacked up and you're looking at this screen and your eyes are getting fatigued and you're out of touch with nature because you're just looking at these machines. Like I'm grateful for all my technology, but I'm not living my life in technology because that's not where I want to live my life. I want to live my life out there. And then I come to tech to connect with people, like connecting with you today, Ashley, knowing this podcast is going to go out and serve people. I will connect on social media with my people, but I'm doing that from a place of wellness. I'm doing that from a place of I understand how I need to take care of myself every day, with the moves I need to make with what I'm drinking, what I'm eating, and then how I move through nature. Okay. So you all can really look around and check on your own energy levels at each season. You might decide that, in the winter time in particular, you want to bring more, fire into your life to, warm you up. Maybe in the fall, you're looking around where I live, the leaves change colors. And so you might tap in at that point, what kind of transformation are you undergoing at that point? What are you shedding? Your leaves, like what leaves are dropping for you? And can you come into that place of faith knowing that, winter is coming, but you're strong enough to handle winter? Not just handle it, but really enjoy it. What do you need to do to prepare for each season? And then can you take a page from these, like the playbook of trees, if you will, and to say, yeah, I know. And then my leaves are going to grow again. And then they'll be green again. And then eventually they'll fall again. And they'll, the leaves will drop or they'll change colors. I just think it's so interesting. The whole thing is so interesting. And this pandemic has given me an opportunity, as I mentioned. I I never thought I'd be a gardener, like ever. You have no idea. Before this interview, Ashley, I went to my local hardware store and made a first ever purchase. Do you want to know what I bought?
What'd you buy?
A chainsaw.
Electric or gas?
I went with the gas. I have electric, like lawnmower, weed whacker, leaf blower, but they explained to me that I really need the gas to do the work that needs to be done. I think it looks like we're going to be cutting our own firewood. I never thought, I mean, ever, but as I was like building out this one particular place on my land with this garden, the tools that I had weren't adequate enough to get through this particular, it's like this vine thing. We have these vines on the property that kind of wrap around trees and hurt them, hurt the trees. And there's this one spot like this has to go, and my tools aren't enough. They're not adequate. Sure, I could go hire someone to do it, but it's really cool. You come into your power. I do anyway. When I say I can do that, I can do that. I felt such a sense of pride, and there's all guys helping me in that section of the store. But I'm like, yep, first ever chainsaw purchase. And they were so excited for me. And I'm so excited for myself to come in and say, we can do that. We can do that. So, when the weather is nice to be able to do this, I feel like such a responsibility to the land and something I want to teach my kids, how to take care of that, how to take care of things, how to really work with this land. Even before the pandemic, we were homeschooling, and we'll continue on that path. And so this is something I want us all to learn together. Like, how do we do this? I think once you know how to do a lot of these things, I know for me, I feel proud. I feel like, hey, I could get some help with this, and there's nothing wrong with getting help. But gosh, what a wonderful feeling to know the things that you can do.
Brilliant. Now, one of your one of your claims to fame
Mm,
is your ability to homeschool and manage your business and manage your household and just be so busy juggling everything. And of course, many people are in overwhelm right now. It's a new experience for them homeschooling uh, in the light of the COVID lockdown. And many parents have chosen not to send their kids back to school because of the restrictions and requirements, but instead have chosen to homeschool. Many people work from home now, like Google, Microsoft, Facebook, they're keeping a lot of their staff at home. And
mhm,
so it's a new dynamic for many Americans and Canadians and people around the world, a new dynamic where many families are working from home and homeschooling at the same time, and they're not used to juggling all these things, or they're planning on it because it's still the summertime, they're planning on it. And even for those who are going back to school, many districts are only doing 2 days a week. So for public school, they're still going to be home for 3 school days. And if parents are home with them, uh, potentially working from home, then it's just a whole new dynamic. Can you walk us through and teach us how we can be more effective at getting all this done? And I think you talk about how you can get more done by doing less. What are
yeah.
some ways that you can really prepare the listeners who are stepping into a whole new routine, a whole new reality?
Yeah, I really like talking about this. Thank you. Well, what we talked about with obviously understanding, the moon in particular and just what's happening out in nature, that's tremendously helpful. So that just becomes your way of living, and the more that you practice that, the more you'll understand. You'll understand, and it makes your life so much simpler. It really, really does. All right, so there's that. The other things that I practice are what I call time chunking and task batching. So you become so intelligent and efficient with your moves and your time. This became, I've always been pretty strong with time. It was interesting, even in that first New York City job I had, I was like 22, and my managers must have seen my ability to do this, because myself and this other colleague of mine, who she was also about 22, 22, 23, I'd say, we were tapped to lead a time management training for the entire organization. And I look back at that, I'm like, we were young, but we had something going on. So I feel, and I think, some of that is probably connected to the deaths that I experienced at such a young age, because I knew right away time is not guaranteed. It's not. It's not. Every day is an absolute gift. So don't squander it. Don't squander it. This is going to require you to be super disciplined, to have very strong boundaries, to know how to say no or not now, or let's look to do that a different way. Like, you really want to understand, if someone's asking you to do something, what that looks like, because I think too many people just give their time away, and it's often because they're afraid of being perceived as mean or rude if they say no, or ask for things to be a bit different, or can we do it next week, or whatever. And I think some people really like that word busy. I actually don't consider myself busy. I don't use that word. I don't believe that that is something that we have to subscribe to. I think busy makes a lot of people sick. Really?
Well, absolutely. If we're just talking about the stress response, the idea of
Yeah,
busy is creating the autonomic nervous system fight or flight, being in the sympathetic nervous system response of fight or flight, which turns off the healing mode in the body. So
totally.
if the story you tell yourself is I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy, then you're triggering fight or flight, and that is a very unhealthy state to be
Absolutely.
in chronically.
Chronically, absolutely. And it's so, you can look back to, I think it's so interesting, especially for people who are trying to figure out, like, if they're in a reinvention right now, which I know many people are, that COVID has kind of given people the opportunity to go, is this what I really want? Like, when my regular life is kind of stripped away, all the things that I typically did, like, is my work, is this good? Is this what I want? Is this framework for this working? And so what's interesting is, you can look back at your life and go, wait, I've always been fascinated in this particular thing. Like, what was that through line? What's the through line? So for me, I was always stressed growing up. I remember feeling this immense pressure, and in college, I took a stress management class, a whole semester. I took a stress management class because I wanted to understand. I mean, no one had taught me that in high school. There was no class that was like, okay, kids, let's help you all be less stressed. It was like, be stressed. Woo! Join the club. Everyone's stressed. No. And so I took a class in college. I wanted to understand what stress really is and how to work with it. And I mean, it's the number one cause of death. I mean, it really is. It leads to so many issues. So we don't have to subscribe to, it's not just something that is a given because we're human. We can reclaim being versus doing. And then when we do things, that those can be intelligent actions. All right. So what you can look at is how you can organize your day, your week, again, working with the lunar cycle, if you're going to play with that, so that you're getting the maximum results from your efforts, and that you don't do it maybe in the way that you used to do it. So I had to really retrain myself when I left my last corporate job. Okay. Once I set out on my own and became an entrepreneur without even knowing that that was what I was going to do. When I quit that last job, I applied for other jobs and nothing was exciting. I was like, I don't want to do any of these things. Oh no. And then I just discovered coaching and just kept, okay, I'm going to stay on this path. And then before I knew it, I had a business, and here we are, all these years later. And I had to train myself to do it differently, that it was not required. There was no rule that said I had to sit at a desk Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. or beyond. Like, there was no rule that said that. But at first, like, I thought I would be in trouble. I mean, it sounds silly to say it, but I really was like, who's going to come? Who's going to knock on my door to see that I'm not here, that I'm at a yoga class at 11 a.m. on a Wednesday? And you know what was so interesting? There were other people at the yoga class at 11 a.m. on a Wednesday, and I'm going, oh my gosh, it's not just me. Well, okay, what do they do for work? And I just saw that I wanted to have a different kind of existence where, I could know my natural creation times, or when my mind was really sharp, when my body had a lot of energy, and I could provide a tremendous amount of value in terms of writing, speaking, working with clients, strategizing. It didn't need to be all day because my body really isn't designed for that. My mind isn't designed for that. And I have a family. I have 3 kids. I can't do all the things I need to do with that old framework, with that old dynamic. Listen, I know some people, a lot of people are still in that space where that's the rule. That's the protocol. You are responsible for being on the computer or being at this physical location from this time to this time. And I would simply challenge you or encourage you to be willing to shake things up a bit and look at how you can look at productivity and see, okay, if I were to batch all my meetings on one particular day, or batch my writing on, my mornings on these days, or my client work on these days. Now, this might be really provocative to some people and kind of make you nervous to even consider doing this or having a conversation with someone who might be more senior to you that you would need to get this through. But there's plenty of organizations who have done this with extraordinary results. There's places, especially abroad, I've seen studies where they just decided that people would work Monday through Thursday, not Monday through Friday. And productivity went up through the roof. Efficiency went through the roof because you weren't just wasting your time going like, well, I can't leave before this time, so I might as well just shoot the breeze. You know what I'm saying? So this is about reclaiming our time and reclaiming that energy. All right. So I do it all. I mean, this is how I homeschool, is that I'm very fortunate. My husband and I both work from home. We have relatively flexible schedules. Like, I get to decide when my client calls are, when these group calls are, when I'm going to do a podcast interview. And then when I'm focused on the children, when I might be working with my daughter on something, or, my boys are at an age where we've been working with tutors the last few years. Pre-COVID, we'd have tutors coming into the home. Right now, we're going to have a pause on that, and we're going to do, online classes and tutors. And so we'll just schedule things in a way that everyone gets what they need. But even within, their schooling, it's not, 9 to blah, blah, like they're in classes back to back to back. I don't believe in that. We need space. We need space to creatively come up with ideas, to go outside and work in the garden, to go on a hike and bring your art supplies and, create something that you see, to be bored. The best ideas come through boredom. We try so hard to like avoid boredom, like it's this horrible thing. It's like we're a bad parent if our kid's bored. That's where they're going to come up with a great idea. We don't need to overschedule them to the point where they don't even know how to think. Right? So as you all are considering how you're going to move forward, keep that all into account. Again, it kind of goes against, well, not kind of, it does. It goes against the systems that we thought were unbreakable, but they've all broken.
No
They've all
kidding.
broken. And I say that with love, but all certainty, because I know for many people, you're still in this state of, it's hard and you might be grieving. I've been homeschooling for a few years now, so I'm not freaked out. I'm sad that we're where we are. It's horrible and it makes me mad and all the things. And I think we should feel our feelings. And I feel for educators. I feel for schools. I feel for administrators. I mean, this is not fun. And there's no playbook really. I mean, the last time we had a global pandemic was more than 100 years ago, and the world looked very different at that point. And so here we are. Luckily, we have more technology that can support us. But I would suggest, especially for those of you who are looking into homeschooling or how distance learning is going to look or what you want to do, to be really mindful of what system do you want to be a part of. Because whatever system you're choosing for your child as well. And so they are experiencing the energy of that system. I'm very grateful for homeschooling because we get to design our own system, really. you know. We have the blessing of our local school district. We submit end of year reports. We submit a plan at the beginning of the school year to say, here's where we're going. And we have very supportive public school principals and superintendents who have our back every year, because they know, that we have our heart in the right place with what we're doing and with what's best for our kids and the way that we see it, you know? And they're learning the things that they need to learn. So I actually just did a workshop on this a few days ago called Charting Your Path as a Homeschooler. I just want to make sure everyone knows too, distance learning is not homeschooling. It's not.
Mm-hmm.
It's not. Okay. You are still in that system. If you like distance learning and it's working well, then do it. But that's not homeschooling. Homeschooling is when you unenroll your child from that school and you really set out on a different path. You have a lot more flexibility, a lot more freedom. If your kids aren't going to be absent, if you decide to go on some trip and they're not going to be logging in at a certain time, it's a whole different deal. I'm very grateful for it. It's not for everybody, but it's for more people than people might think. And yeah, I mean, I could talk about it all day. I feel like where we are now as a society is one where, again, you have an opportunity to choose the system that you're going to be operating in, and make sure that system is like, you can be healthy within the system. Like for me, Ashley, in that corporate existence, and this again was in the late 90s, almost all the way through the 2000s, that first, up to, I quit that last corporate job in November of 2007. I realized that system was making me sick. And
Mm.
I remember being so afraid to leave, because I'm like, well, I get the health care. Like my husband and I got health insurance through my job, because at that point he was freelance in his work. And so we got health insurance through my job. But I remember that small, still voice within was saying, but Jenny, you're getting sick. So you can keep your health insurance. And it was just this whole thing of, this is backwards. Like, this is so twisted. And so I had to get that courage up to quit my job. I went on Cobra, for 18 months, as long as we could. Then we found private insurance. And then we were so blessed and grateful. My husband ended up getting a full-time position. And so we do have health insurance through his company now. And the way his company is designed, like, he's not getting sick by working there. I'm not getting sick doing the work I'm doing. My work keeps me healthy because my work keeps me honest.
Mm. Beautiful.
Yeah.
Do you have any other lessons or homework or uh, techniques that you'd like to teach those who are stepping into this new world?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I've loved having this conversation. It's been really special. Um, you know, as much as you can, remember that you're breathing. This is another thing that we take for granted and we forget. Breathing. It's the first thing we do when we're born. We take that breath and, oh, rejoice, right? And then the last thing we're going to do as we exit the body, okay, is we'll take that final breath. So it's a profound process, breathing. And for many people, and I know for me too, before I discovered conscious breathing, in the yogic realm, it's called pranayama. Prana is that life force energy. All right. So prana, we have this life force energy moving through our body, moving through our veins, our blood. It just keeps everything just beautifully connected. And oh my goodness, we often move through life, if you're unconscious of it, and you're in that whole busy trap, and you're just kind of like eating fast food on the go, and you're constantly out of touch with nature, and really with your truth. And you've said yes to lots of things that you're like, I don't even want to do this, but I have to do it. You're in the kind of the shoulds and the obligatory stuff, is that we've come out of connection with our own breath. And then you're often breathing shallow. And so it's just from like that upper lung capacity, like you're just kind of breathing like to the heart and up. But the lungs and the body can hold so much more. And so if you were to take some time and really sit with yourself, and we could do it right now, we could just breathe very deeply together, and you can count your breaths. You can count just the beats of the breath. And so we could play right now and simply come into this breathing exercise where we are mindfully inhaling and just breathing as full as you can on the inhale, and then going as high up as you can in the body. And then as you exhale, slow, methodical, trusting that exhale. And then as you inhale the next time, feel that you're pulling the inhale up from the core of the earth. Just bringing it all the way up the body, all the way up to the body. And can you come to the top of your head, the crown of your head? And as you exhale down from the crown of your head, putting that breath back into the earth. And so you're recycling the breath over and over again, remembering that the earth gives us so much. I mean, so much. It gives us food, it gives us sustenance, gives us air to breathe, oxygen. So bring yourself into that place of just conscious breathing, especially if you find yourself getting stressed or anxious. Can you come to that place of breath work? And it's breath work, like there's actual work involved in the breath, instead of that just unconscious, like I don't even know, I'm shallow breathing, or I'm like, you'll find if you're very you find yourself feeling a lot of pressure and a lot of tension, which, let's be real, even the most uh, experienced those of us are with breathing or with exercise or mindfulness techniques, coronavirus, COVID will test us all. This is the work, this is really the thing that we're meant to see, uh, how deep our practices are, and where we still have work to do, or blind spots, or where we might be falling in certain holes. And, a practice isn't something that we're here to become perfect at. It's something that we just show up for, every day. And so whether it's you when you go for your run, or you get on your yoga mat, or you just sit outside and look at nature, or you do this, this deep breath work, or all the other things that you do. You play tennis, you're into baseball, you're into, all the wonderful things that we can do with our bodies. It's knowing that we can come into this place of that quiet, and you can access that small, still voice within and just breathe. Like, that's it. And if it's newer to you, there's apps you can get into. There's that Insight Timer app. I use that for years. I have that on my phone. I'm a Peloton owner and user. I have the Peloton app on my phone. And often if I'm preparing for, like, let's say I'm going to lead a training for clients, I'm going to give a presentation, I will turn on a meditation, even though I know how to meditate. Okay, I lead meditations, but it's really nice for someone to tell me what to do. I like to be told what to do sometimes, and to be guided through an experience. So I'll just open up the app, whatever app you want. I mean, there's so many that are available to you these days, and you can just pick one. If you have 3 minutes, there'll be a 3-minute, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 30 minutes, and beyond, and you can tune in and receive. Just tune in and receive, and allow yourself to be in that moment. Don't worry about what just happened or what you've got next. Just come into that place of, I'm taking 5 minutes. I am not going to feel guilty for taking these 5 minutes, and I'm going to breathe. That's it. And if it's a guided meditation, you'll listen to the words that are being, spoken. You'll listen to maybe the music or the sounds of nature that might be on that meditation track, and you'll go where you go. You'll go where you go. And you might find that you'll get the answer to something that you've been struggling with. Some kind of, feeling will come over your body. You'll get what I call an intuitive hit, and you'll realize, oh my goodness, that's it. I'm going to go call that person later, or I'm going to go sign up for that thing, or I'm going to go make that decision. It comes to you in those moments of stillness. And then your job is to then respond, to do something with it. All right. So that's something that I know that you all will get so much from, just that conscious breath, and that coming back to that thing that is so special And, talk to anybody who is having trouble breathing or has some kind of illness where their breathing is affected. They will tell you how they wish it could be different. So when we have this gift, use it, really use it, and take note of how it allows you to show up differently for the important people in your life. I think this is an opportunity for all of us to really honor the relationships that we have. We are living in a very hard time. There's lots of challenge now, and I know that many people are experiencing hard things at home, in their work, or with people in their lives. Maybe you can't see the important people in your life right now, which is heartbreaking, totally, totally heartbreaking. But can you come into this place of stillness so that as you show up for the relationships, you can show up from a place of groundedness and kindness and compassion, even though you might see some craziness happening on social media, right? Anytime you go on there, it's like loaded. You're like, okay, am I ready for this? So we've got to come back. We have to do our own work. And then if you have kids, can you teach them how to do this stuff? Can you model it? But the way you teach is to do it. It's to be it. Can you show it to your partner? Can you embody this with the important people in your life? It's such a simple tool, but so few people actually use it. And if you were to use it, it would change your life.
Beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing your insights. You also, your website, another website of yours is magicmakerscoach.com, and you have
Yeah.
a Magic Makers Coach certification. What's that all about?
Yeah. So, well, I'm really passionate about serving women coaches, therapists, wellness professionals, fitness professionals, those who might have come from that corporate background like I am, women who know that they're here to guide their people to their greatest potential. And they do that through transformative coaching and really working with a lot of the concepts that we talked about today. It's listening skills, it's understanding energy, it's understanding how to work with the lunar cycle, understanding how to help your clients move through energetic blocks and just old patterns that aren't healthy or sustainable. Really look for old stories that they've outgrown and aren't serving them and aren't serving this beautiful life that they've been blessed with. So yeah, once I became a coach all those years ago and then set out on my path to create this business and help people, I then realized there was a huge gap in the market for a coach certification that blended up how to honor the craft of coaching in this particular style of coaching, which is very much about working with your intuition and your body and energy, and then how to have a great business doing this, how to have an online business doing this. And that's what our coach certification is dedicated to. I feel so grateful that, especially in these days, I mean, often women were in careers that were really important and valuable, but often um, they might get to a point where they have to choose if they decided to become mothers or have families, that it became a real sense of tension and stress because that old system meant, okay, well, you're in this office and then your kids are over here and then you're dealing with who's with them after school. Or if you really want to go far in your career, it can come at odds to the desire you might have to spend time with your family. Or you might be in a career that is so valuable, but for some silly reason, it's not valuable from a financial compensation perspective. And so that has also held women back. And we're in a new era now. And online has very much put us on different terrain. And women have an opportunity to earn really well and to do incredible things with these gifts and talents that they might have used again in that corporate space. Like when it was so interesting, actually, I didn't even know like what coaching was really. I mean, I had sports coaches growing up, but once I discovered it after my yoga teacher training, it was like a huge light bulb went on, and I said, I've been doing this my whole life. I didn't know this was a job. this was the part that I liked most in all my jobs. The other things I had to do, I didn't enjoy, but I just thought, that's how it was. And so once I discovered that coaching was this wonderful way to use these gifts and talents that I have, and so many women are naturally blessed with this. And then once they really are given the tools and the guidance and the training and the community to really honor the craft and come forward with confidence as they work with their clients, and then understand how to create an incredible business and mostly have it online if that's their desire. That's the way I do it in my business, that they don't have to choose between motherhood and a lucrative career. It can be something that they can really integrate, and it can evolve with them. It can evolve with their family. It can evolve with the seasons, as we talked about. So that's why we've created Magic Makers Coach certification. I'm really proud of the work that we do. And if this calls out to anyone tuning in, I'd love for you to check it out and submit an application if you feel called.
Wonderful. In closing, I'd like for you to give us some homework. I know you
Hmm.
told us before to breathe, pay attention to the lunar cycles. What kind of homework can you give us? Perhaps homework that would help people to better tap into their life purpose, tap into why they're here, and feel purposeful. I think some people are feeling a little untethered right now. So, what kind of homework can help to empower us?
Hmm. Yeah. Oh my goodness, that's such a great question. Really, to come into that place of purpose. Well, if possible, and it should be because we're in summer. It's warm most places. If you're in the southern hemisphere, I know you're in a different season, but play with me on this. Go walk outside barefoot.
Yes.
So simple, but goodness, it gets you back into that place of, oh, this is how my feet feel on grass or on sand or even on concrete, you know? Just the warmth from the sun that's being pulled up. Or maybe if you can, go jump in some water. Get in a pool, go to a lake, go to an ocean, as much as you can connect in with nature, the natural elements, fire, water, air, earth. The more you are going to feel good in your body, and it feels good to feel good. You're allowed to feel good. I mean, that right there could be this monumental breakthrough for some of you. Oh, I'm allowed to feel good more often than not, right? Like, what would happen if you felt good more than you do right now? Like, what would happen? And I also encourage you to get honest with yourself about what you're putting in your body when it comes to your thoughts, when it comes to what you're looking at, okay, like your digital diet, or, um, do you need to unfollow some people on social media? Do you need to scroll less? Do you need to be more intentional about kind of the information that you're taking in? Again, not to go into a bubble. I believe in being informed. And I think now more than ever, we need to keep our eyes open about what's happening in the world, but be really mindful of what you're subjecting yourself to. And just know, like, maybe reading things is better than watching videos for you because you're way too impacted by some of the scenes. I have subscriptions to certain publications that keep me informed. Okay. But also look at what your body is telling you about what is good for you and what's not. Is there something that you are consuming right now that really is toxic for you? A few years ago, I received a strong message from that small still voice within that it was time for me to let go of alcohol and not drink anymore. And if you would have known me as a teenager, Ashley, or during my collegiate career, you would have not believed that I would one day not drink, because that was just so part of my identity. That was what I thought you did to have a good time. And my body made it very clear, as I had been, those years of practicing yoga, having my children, and I wanted a natural birth with them, and I did that with 2 out of the 3. My child was breech, and so I had a C-section with him. And so I've had all these different experiences with my body. I've come to appreciate her in ways that I never did before. And I look back and I know I was horrible to her for many years with how I treated her and what I said to her and what I put inside of her. And I don't do that anymore. I'm not perfect, but each day I commit to being more in tune with what she needs in terms of fuel sources, right? Because we need this fuel to go all the places we're meant to go in this life and help the people we're meant to help and be there for our family, be here as long as we can in vitality with our people. And so, in my case, I realized that alcohol just didn't have a role for me anymore. Like it couldn't be a character in my movie any longer. I was ready to move into a new chapter. So I let it go. For other people, they can have it, but there's others who can't eat gluten, or they can't have sugar, or they can't have, whatever. There are certain people in your life, like they're just holding you back. So this requires a lot of discipline and a tremendous amount of honesty and some grief of, oh my goodness, this thing that I've known for so long, or this person I've known for so long, we just can't do this thing anymore. And I encourage you to have those honest conversations with yourself and just get curious about what might be on the other side. Just be curious. And sometimes you can make a decision, and it might be, well, let me just try this for a month or a lunar cycle, we play with that, or a season, and just see. Run experiments, run more experiments, be curious. And when you find, what, my life is better, my body feels better without this or with this, then run with that until it doesn't make sense anymore. And then you'll redesign something from there.
Alcohol, it's an interesting thing. We go to alcohol, sugar, there's over the counter things like sugar and dairy. Um, the very stereotypical woman sitting with a pint of ice cream crying or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
When COVID first kind of came about, all the stores, and I saw this in our grocery stores, were completely sold out of baking goods, like
Yes,
materials for baking. Like all the baker's yeast was gone, all the flour goes gone, the sugar. Um, People just
totally.
sat at home and baked and ate their feelings. And I get it. I totally, I only stock healthy food in the house, but I definitely have caught myself eating my feelings the first few months of this crazy year. And alcohol is something that's I cut out of my life really young. I was a bartender when I was 19, because in Canada the drinking age can be 18 or 19 depending on what province.
Uh-huh.
And hanging out with as a bartender, I was great as a bartender. I'm such an extrovert, and I love people, and I love talking to people. And it was fun. And I didn't think I'm serving people poison, right? It's just, at 19, I'm having fun.
Yeah.
And after a season of babysitting drunk people, it just turned me off so much. And I just stopped drinking. I just didn't like it. I don't like feeling out of control. It didn't,
Yeah.
give me any pleasure. But I watched my parents growing up. My mom would come home and take the vodka out of the freezer and have a shot just to calm
Mm-hmm.
her nerves. And then a few hours later, my dad would come home and they'd split a bottle of wine, and they'd sit together at the dinner table and they'd drink their wine. And sometimes on special occasions, they'd put a little wine in a glass and fill it with water. And so they thought it was fun, like they're sharing it with me. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and it became their way of de-stressing, of just, grounding or unwinding from the day. But now we know, and looking at physiology, we know that the moment you drink even one serving of alcohol, your body goes into a state of stress for 24 hours. That you can actually
Mm.
measure your heart rate variability, which is the most accurate indicator of stress, and that your heart
Mm-hmm.
rate variability becomes very poor for 24
Mm.
hours after drinking even just one serving of alcohol. And
Wow.
if it's doing that to us, then it is affecting the depth of sleep, the depth of being able to regenerate your body through sleep. And then the next day, Psychologically, it changes the brain chemistry so we're more narcissistic. We're less able to be
Mm.
empathetic. We actually have a harder time with emotional quotient or emotional intelligence, being able to delay gratification. So we become people who
Wow.
need more instant gratification. This is all from one glass of wine.
One glass.
Yeah,
Yep.
and then because now we are less likely to delay instant gratification, we or delay gratification, we would tend to then have another one, and we would tend to have another the next night and the next night. It becomes a habit, and then we live a story. The story is, I need this to unwind, or I deserve this to
Mm.
to um to just have a break. Oh, this is gonna make me feel good. Well, I can say that about sugar. I can say that about, ice cream, right? We can say that about a lot of things that are over the counter, right? This is gonna make me feel good. Now you can say that
Mhm.
about street drugs too, but people who are listening
Mhm.
know that most people who are listening are not currently choosing street drugs to relax at the end of a stressful day. But most people who are even very health conscious do find that they have their, I don't want to call them vices, but they have their self-medication. And
Mm.
and we have to look at it not from a point of guilt and shame, because that then just perpetuates the vicious cycle. But to break out of the vicious
Mhm.
cycle and go, okay, so what are my deeper needs? Because
Mm.
if I'm trying to fulfill a need with alcohol or with sugar or with flour or with dairy, right? If there's something that is ultimately not healthy for me, but I'm using it to kind of band-aid a need. What's that deeper need, and how can I serve it in a healthier way? How can I get to the root cause? I used to work with a woman who was into personal growth and development, and yet she couldn't quit smoking until she finally realized why she couldn't quit smoking. When she ever did quit smoking for periods of time, she would never take a break. She would work at her desk. She owned her own business, and she'd work at her desk from morning till night, never once getting up to
Mm.
stretch, like just never eating, just really never taking care of herself. And then she would go downhill very quickly. But smoking, she caught herself and realized that it made her get out off her desk, go to the balcony, take between 5 and 15 minutes, and just relax and breathe. Even though it's breathing in a cigarette, it's still breathing.
Breathing in nicotine.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and then she would maybe grab a drink and grab a bite, and then she'd go back to the desk, and she was just as effective at her work. Because there comes a point when you push yourself so hard that you don't have efficiency, as you talked about. Um,
Mm.
but she she used cigarettes as a way of mandating breaks. So she had to do, in order to successfully quit, and she did eventually, when she implemented mandatory breaks without cigarettes. And so she'd go outside and just breathe air without the cigarettes, or she'd go for a walk, or she'd, just do something else to stand up, stretch, walk around, get a glass of water, and take mandatory breaks. And then the deeper need that was being met by the cigarettes as a band-aid was no longer there. So I just think that if we can choose to do, like you said, do a lunar cycle with no alcohol in the house, with no alcohol in your life, and instead ask yourself, what's this deeper need? And if it's that what you really need is something to relax and de-stress, well, knowing that alcohol temporarily makes you kind of feel out of it and disconnected, so we think it's relaxing us, but it's actually
Mm.
stressing our body more for 24 hours. And if we can get outside, like you said, and do grounding or earthing, and I have some great, I was about to say great documentaries. I do have a great documentary actually on that, linked in the Learn to Health Facebook group under announcements. There's an amazing documentary that we have uploaded into our Facebook group that we got permission to upload. But I have a few episodes on earthing and grounding and the importance of it, and that there's 26 studies that prove that by getting out in nature and putting your feet on the ground, or using a grounding mat if you live in a condo and you have no access to grass, that
Mm.
by releasing those excess electrons, it decreases stress in the body, it decreases inflammation in the body, and even people with MS and other um, autoimmune disorders that are triggered by inflammation see great
Mm.
success. And so I love your very very powerful and doable advice of breathing, of tuning into yourself, and of walking as much as you can out in nature, barefoot, so that you can earth and ground. And then try cutting out alcohol, or try taking what's in your diet that you know, that little voice that you talked about, that wise but quiet voice inside you that knows that that it really is time to stop drinking the coffee and switch to green tea, or switch to a nut-based milk instead of a cow milk because it's affecting your immune system, or give up the alcohol for some kombucha or some
Oh
herbal
my gosh, I
tea.
love kombucha.
Right? It's so good.
Oh yeah.
It's so
I have it
good.
on my desk right now.
Nice.
Jalapeno kiwi cucumber
Oh my
blend. Oh,
gosh.
I just recently discovered that one. It's that Health Aid kombucha brand, and they have a jalapeno kiwi cucumber. Those of you who might experiment with the no alcohol, or you love kombucha,
Yeah,
I
switch to
highly recommend that
kombucha.
variety. That is like that little kick, that jalapeno. You
Yes.
still want the kick in your life. That's the thing. You thought alcohol gave you the kick, but you can get kicks other ways.
Absolutely, absolutely. I go to the farmer's market, and there's a local company, and they fill up my big glass bottle
Uh-huh.
of it, and they have the most delicious strawberry one. They also have a pineapple one and a ginger one. I love it. And my husband's addicted to the cayenne.
Cayenne
Yeah, the
pepper.
cayenne,
Yep.
like
Cayenne
I think
cleanse.
it's like cayenne and
Yeah.
ginger or something. But
Oh, yeah.
yeah, there's so many out there, and there's just fun things to swap out. But at the root of it, I I want us to just ask ourselves, is this serving me? Is this really serving me on a deeper level, or is this um masking something? Is this really fulfilling a need, or is this just masking some symptoms? Like if you had a headache and you just take Advil, you're not really serving yourself in the long run, because that headache is your body trying to say something. So I
Exactly.
think your life is going to express in different ways to show you that there's some deep healing you can do, but you have to
Yeah.
stop masking things. Like, I don't think we can truly do deep healing if we're drinking alcohol every day.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. That's the thing is we've been fed a narrative that
Mm-hmm.
we aren't strong enough to feel things. And so the
Oh,
way through that is through drugs, or through some kind of numbing technique, some kind of numbing substance. Alcohol numbs you. I experimented with plenty of drugs growing up. That those were numb. I numbed out from feeling things, from feeling stuff that felt very, very hard to feel. I mean, the same thing when I went through childbirth and I did so much study. It was like, I actually want to feel it, and it's okay. Every woman can decide what's right for her, but I wanted to feel the contractions. I wanted to feel the birth happening. And I trusted my body. I didn't need to numb out on that. And we, you reclaim your power when you know that you can feel things. And there are people who can help you feel things. I've worked with plenty of healers and therapists and all the things, but gosh, there is liberation on the other side of feeling that stuff and knowing that it won't kill you, right? It's just going to make you stronger. You're going to be reminded about who you are, and it will prepare you for all the other journeys you're going to take in your life.
beautiful. Thank you so much for coming on the show today. It has been such a pleasure to have this conversation with you, Jenny. And I look forward to seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. We're all seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, but I look forward to implementing everything that we learned here today, and possibly having you back on the show to see how things are progressing, and have you come share more with us.
That would be lovely. Thank you so much. It's been a really, really powerful conversation. I send so much love and courage to everyone as I mean, we're really creating the future today. I mean, we're living it, and we're living in a really fascinating time. I know it's hard, but I also keep reminding myself when I say it to others, what a fascinating time to be alive. If we could have chosen the different times, you know what I mean?
Right.
And we're here now. So, okay, let's show up and let's just do our best, and let's keep choosing health. Let's keep choosing the healthy path as best we can.
An ancient Chinese proverb, may you live in interesting times. And that can be taken many ways. I love that. Let's
Like,
just keep
yeah,
choosing health and keep choosing the healthy path, no matter what. Thank you so much, Jenny. It's been a pleasure having you on the show.
thank you.
I hope you enjoyed today's interview with Jenny Fenig. Please check out IIN, the Institute for Integrative Nutrition, by going to learntruehealth.com/coach. That's learntruehealth.com/coach, and sign up for a free module and see if it's right for you. See if taking the Institute for Integrative Nutrition's health coach training program is the path that you want to take, either for your own personal growth, to help you yourself, your family, your friends, or adding tools to your tool belt, or having a career. And this is a career that you can do from home. Now's the time to invest in our own education and experience. Now's the time to dive in to personal growth. You know, we can I don't want to say we can turn these lemons into lemonade, but sugar-free lemonade. We can take the hand we've been dealt right now and we can turn it around and figure out how we can gain the most benefit. And if you have to be at home right now, then find ways of enriching your life and enriching your experiences. And things like doing online school, it's a fantastic way to spend your time, to grow and to learn. And if your kids are doing school from home, why not you as well? So check out IIN. Oh, and you know what? I've heard a lot of parents have shared the IIN course with their whole family, and with my husband watched some of the videos and some of the training modules with me and really enjoyed it. And I know that older kids often love learning from it as well. So it's something that you can share with your children and maybe make it part of your homeschooling. So go to IIN.com, check it out, and give them a call. And make sure you mention Ashley James and Learn to Health podcast for the listener discount. Thank you so much for being a listener. Thank you so much for sharing these episodes. Come join the Learn to Health Facebook group and have yourself a fantastic rest of your day.